I don't know about you, but I'm 55, so I grew up in a time when we only had a ball to play with and a bike and a dog. So I was quite bored at times as a child, and I saw an advert on the TV showing some guys skiing in the Arctic. I said to my mother, I'd love to do that, that would be fantastic. So she said, I don't think you realise what that is, it's the Royal Marines. So I went to the recruiting centre every week, and they said, no, we're full, and I kept going back, and in the end they said, no, you can do what's called a potential Royal Marines course to see if you're up to it. Where 12 of us went in just after the Falklands War. 3 of us got accepted, and I started in 1982 on the 15th of November. I remember at 17 joining as a junior Marine and being terrified as I got off the train. And, you know, I don't think anything can prepare you for commando training. It's the longest basic training in the world. And I actually spent probably nearly 40 weeks at the Commando Training Centre, because halfway through training at week 14, the whole troop was so diminished by people who left, they held us there for 3 weeks to join the troop behind. Actually 2 weeks to join the troop behind. And then I got injured on the final exercise and had to be put back another couple of weeks to pass out. So I joined because I wanted adventure. I joined because I wanted to have an exciting life. I felt that I wanted to see the world, like a lot of young people, to get out and do stuff. Well, I've noticed that, I remember when I joined training, I saw guys that looked fitter than me. They looked stronger. They would, what I would say would be the poster boy kind of commando. But as I went through training, I realized they fell apart, because it's not just about running. It's about running when you're tired and soldiering when you're wet and cold for day after day in horrible situations. So I ended up being 4-5 Commando Mountain Arctic Warfare. And that means that you are generally wet and uncomfortable and living in situations that most people wouldn't want to spend a couple of minutes in, never mind soldier in. And you have to deal with enforced separation from loved ones, discomfort for long periods of time. And in training, that sorted out the men from the boys. The ones that couldn't cope mentally with that fell away. And when you pass out of training, you think, okay, I've arrived. But when you join a commando unit, they say to you, I know this is what you learned in training. Now we're going to really teach you how to be a commando. So it's a process of learning. And even after you've been in the commandos 4 or 5 years, there's other things that you'll learn. At the time, the Marines, and they still do, protected all the old rigs. So we have a group of people that in the commandos that protect all the British oil rigs, or world shipping, British shipping, embassies, and we escort nuclear convoys, and also protect all the nuclear submarines at the submarine bases in Faslane, amongst the many other roles. Jungle warfare, desert warfare, and mountain Arctic warfare are the specialities. I learnt the most that they have the commando ethos and the commando values of integrity, honesty, courage, valour. I think, or always thinking of the other. You join the Marines because you want to do good, and you have a buddy system where you're always watching out for the man working next to you, and he's watching out for you. So I learned the value of friendship, and friendship when it looks messy and horrible, when you're having a really tough time, how friends get you through that. And I also learned about if you say you're going to do something, to keep your word, because these are men that expect you to keep your word. So if you're going to be at a certain point at a certain time on a certain date, you have to be there despite the challenges, the weather, whatever's in your way, you've got to overcome it. So I learned the importance of keeping my word, of having good friendships to get me through hard times in the mountains and the valleys of life. And I learned also about myself, what I'm like when things get tough. What am I like when I'm uncomfortable? What am I like when I'm suffering difficult situations with extreme pressure? who am I, how do I respond? That's the sort of thing you learn, and they're looking for the kind of people that don't give up in those situations. And also don't make it difficult for others. Just because I'm cold and wet, my friend doesn't need to know because he's cold and wet. You just have to get on with it, and it's a mindset. It's a mindset. It depends on what you value achievement. I think my greatest achievement was that I stayed friends with all the men that I served with for over 30 years, that we are there for each other through the good and bad times, that I didn't hurt anybody unnecessarily, that I stayed true to myself in the Marines, and I always looked after the underdog, watched out for those who were vulnerable or in need. On operations, I didn't abuse the authority that we were given. So that I'd say that was something I'm grateful when I look back. Well, I think living and fighting in the Arctic environment is an extreme environment. The desert's extreme and the jungle is hard, but in the Arctic, you make one mistake, you will die of exposure. And just even taking your glove off for 5 seconds is enough to start frostbite, frostnip. And you have to put your glove in your jacket, not on the floor, it freezes. Everything is extremely difficult. And to live and fight and survive in those circumstances, when it comes below -30, we just dig in. But I've been in environments up to -67, where you're basically, you make one mistake and you die. So to soldier in that, never mind just to survive in that, to soldier that on extended periods up to 11 days on operations deep inside the Arctic Circle is a test of your endurance, a test of your character, and to not fall out with other men on operations, working on some of the ships at night, do night insertions in the Arctic. You can't see much, but you're relying on the eyes of the helicopter pilot. You've got to hold your nerve, all that sort of stuff, I think the Arctic was the toughest thing I did, which stretched me beyond anything, I think. Well, I'd say it's not to be done lightly. First of all, joining the military means you will have enforced separation from those you love. It will be a very exciting lifestyle. It'll be a lot of fun. It will stretch you. And you will make friends that will last a lifetime. But you will be changed by it. I think for the better. You need to ask yourself, is this a short-term thing? I think I probably came out too early on hindsight. I wouldn't change the past, but I wish an older guy put his arm around my shoulder and said, look, overlook that, give it another 5 years. If you do it well, it can be a fantastic lifelong career. I would say find out as much about all the military as you can, but if the Marines is something you set your heart on, be as fit as you can, mentally and physically, and never, ever give up. Ever. Do not give up, because they're not looking for quitters.